Hello everyone, today I've got a fun video for you guys. It's going to be a comparison between my Glock 17 Gen 4, that's an airsoft replica of a Glock 17 in real life. This is what I use when I'm airsofting. It's pretty good practical use for like just weapon manipulation, stuff like that. None of like actual shooting wise comparisons between a real Glock and a airsoft Glock, because there's big differences there. But the way it feels, the way it recoils, the way the slide comes off, all are pretty similar to the real steel Glock 17 Gen 3 that I have. And I do want to show you guys the comparison between the real one, which is what I have today, my real Glock 17 Gen 3. That's what I conceal carry, and that's what I train with when I go to the range, flat range, wherever it may be. That's what I use, and that's what I carry. If you're wondering what I'm carrying with in these shorts, it's the Alias Neomag beltless receiver. Check out their website. They've got some really cool accessories and things for people who conceal carry and people who train and go to the range and stuff like that. Definitely a good company to go with. The holster I have is MC Kydex, one of the MC Kydex holsters for real firearms, for real steel stuff. And that's what I have as my holster. But that's not what I'm going over today. I'm going over these Glocks. So the first difference between these two is the weight comparison. So one's gonna be heavier, one's gonna be a little bit lighter, but they're very similar in size. They are practically the same size, except for the threaded outer barrel that I have on my Airsoft Glock. My real steel Glock, the weight is slightly heavier, and with the mag, it's gonna be comparably heavier because it's got actual ammunition in it, and that's gonna add even more weight to it. Plastic BBs aren't gonna do you too much for weight because they're plastic and they're light, but the weight, decent weight. I mean, this one, plastic for the most part. This one, it's got a full metal slide. This slide is actually metal, but it's kind of like pot metal. This metal is actual like seriously good metal. I mean, because it's from a real Glock. But that's not really helpful information as far as when you're going to use airsoft stuff. So the breakdown, when you tear these two down, it's even simpler for airsoft. All you have to do is remove the slide by pulling down these two pins, and then you've got the internals. There's a lot more moving parts in an airsoft Glock than there is on a real steel Glock. That's why I always say the maintenance on an airsoft Glock is a little bit more difficult. Not really difficult, but it's more you gotta have a lot more knowledge on like teching and stuff like that to keep up with your gun regularly so it actually works, because of all the moving parts. There's a hop-up unit, there's a bucking, there's a spring guide, recoil spring, there's a hammer sear set, there's all sorts of moving parts that you have to constantly lubricate and clean so that your gun can shoot. And half the time it doesn't even want to shoot when you want it to shoot. But this Glock 17 Gen 4 from VFC, Elite Force, whatever you want to call it, has been super reliable, and I highly recommend it. So that's one thing to notice between like a real Glock and an airsoft Glock 17. People may comment down below like, oh, a real Glock you have to clean and do all this other stuff. If you clean your gun, clean your barrel, you know, lubricate it here and there, your gun's gonna work just fine. I mean, as long as you're not throwing it against a tree or something stupid, your gun's gonna work just fine at the range. But airsoft, there's so many things that can go wrong. Just the heat itself can make an impact on how well this thing works. This thing, you can use it in any temperature, warm weather, cold weather, and it's gonna work amazingly. You've seen Grantham videos. He throws it in the mud, throws it in the dirt, throws it in the snow. This thing is reliable and will work in any condition. This thing, it's finicky and it's airsoft, so I mean, it's bound to break. So there's that. The mag differences, well, biggest difference you can see right off the top of the bat is there's 9mm in this and there's 6mm BBs in this, but that's kind of obvious. The weight is actually equal. I would say just by, you know, going by feel, the weight's pretty similar. I've got an extended mag, and even with the extended mag on my Glock 17 Gen 3 mag, it's still about the same weight. This is a metal mag, and this is a plastic mag, and that's probably why the weight is kind of equaled out, because you got plastic BBs in here, and you've got, you know, full metal jacket, 9mm in here, so it kind of equals out in the end. The mag that I did choose was not the green gas mag, it was the CO2 Glock 17 Gen 4 mag, and that's the one I would recommend to you guys. Yeah, this is my EDC knife. But usually I use a flathead, and then I tighten this CO2 cartridge down just like that, and your mag is ready to shoot. When you're going to shoot this gun, I mean, the recoil is nowhere near like a real Glock 17, but you still get the full kick from the slide, which is kind of cool. And when you're going to train, when you're translating over to airsoft, you still want a moving slide so you can get used to adjusting to your sight picture when you're going to shoot, because every time you shoot, you're constantly going to have to adjust for the target. So every time I shoot, it kicks back, it gives you a little recoil, and you have to adjust to your sights just like that. The mag release is on the same side. All the controls are the same as the Glock 17 Gen 3 in my real steel configuration, and then the Glock 17 Gen 4, it's the same. The iron sights are the same on the Glock 17 Gen 4 as the Glock 17 Gen 3. I like the single sight posts. If you guys can see that, I'm pointing the gun right at myself. Bad firearm safety, but this is airsoft, so it doesn't really matter. But it's good to train with airsoft like you would in real steel. Cringe, but whatever. So there's a single iron sight post. That's the same, and I like to keep these iron sights what I would be using in airsoft and real steel, so it kind of gets me used to looking down sights similar. Obviously, it's not going to be the same sight alignment where I'm actually aiming at a target and it hits the target right where I aim on this front iron sight post, but it's good to get used to that same iron sight on my Glock 17 Gen 4. But there is that. You still have the bottom rail. I can still switch over my TLR1 HL, which I highly recommend for a light, which for whatever reason it's not coming off. There we go. Yeah, I would highly recommend this TLR1 HL stream light for your airsoft Glock 17 Gen 4 if you were to get the same exact gun as me. It's good to train with the same accessories as your real steel stuff on your airsoft stuff, because you're going to be using those same accessories on your real guns, and it gets you familiar with how they feel, how they operate, what it looks like when you're aiming down sights, what it looks like when you're holding your gun, when you want to switch on your sight, when you want to go to strobe, when you want to go to standard full light mode, when you want to go to pulse. It all translates the same, and in your hand it feels the same when you go to flip the switch and everything like that. If if I had the slide with the RMR cut, I would want the same optic I use on my Airsoft Glock as my real steel Glock, but I haven't really got into real steel optics yet on my Glock 17 down here because I've done a lot of research, and I know it's good to get used to your iron sights before you move on to you know, an optic. Some people may debate me on that, but I want to be as knowledgeable as possible and as trained as well as possible with just iron sights before I get to, you know, an optic. But that's just me. Eventually I will get an optic for sure, 100%, but for now I just want to get used to the basics. I have been training for a couple years now, or for like 2 years now with this Glock 17, but still I want to get even more comfortable with it. And yeah, before I get an optic, that's what I want to do. So that's why for now on my Airsoft Glock, I do not have an optic. So as far as the grip, which is another noticeable difference, the grip actually on the Glock 17 Gen 4 in Airsoft is so much more grippier than my Glock 17 Gen 3. The grooves are super smooth. So when you go to hold your Glock 17 Gen 3, your real steel one, you're gonna notice that it's super smooth. I don't really like that, but what you can do is get it stippled to where it's similar to your Airsoft Glock 17 Gen 4 if you wanted to do that. I did not, but another thing that I want to show you is when you go to load your mag in, it's pretty similar to your Airsoft Glock. You just hit the mag release and you slide your mag in and you cock it back, and then you have one in the chamber. When you want to take it out, that's with real steel, obviously. Airsoft, it's gonna be actually the same. So when you go to load your mag, there's nothing in here right now, all right? You go to load your mag, you cock one, all right? So right now, there's one BB in this gun. I take the mag out, and then there's one BB jammed down in there, and you'll see the BB. It was loaded and prepped and ready to shoot. So there is that. So that's very similar to what it would be with real steel. You have that same mechanics, whatever you want to call it, the same mechanics as what it would be in Airsoft. Also, another feature with Airsoft is it will lock to the rear when you're out of ammo, so that translates over to real steel. Obviously, anything to do with accuracy, range, distance, stability, and then typical grip when you're going to shoot each gun is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have more of an aggressive grip when you're shooting a real Glock 17 compared to an Airsoft Glock 17. But something as small as this, like it locks to the rear, that's cool. That's what you want. I mean, and then it's something as small as the same iron sight post. You have the same size gun. It's the same exact size in barrel length and in grip. On your lower grip and on your slide, it's the same length. It feels the same, other than the palm of your hand, the grip, like I was saying. Everything fits right where it should be, and that's pretty cool. You'll see some clips of me shooting each. I think it's a good idea for anyone who's getting into real steel to use whatever they're using already in Airsoft. If they're moving from Airsoft to real steel, get what you're comfortable with already, because it might translate over into the real world and in training when you're at the range, wherever you may be. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video from an Airsofter, but hopefully that helped with some of you new airsofters getting into real steel, that's what this video is for. Real gun guys, you guys are already gonna know what a real Glock feels like, but if you're wanting to get into airsoft, into some of those milsim events that you see some of the bigger gun tubers getting into, now you kind of know what an Airsoft Glock 17 may feel like, look like, handle, and that's all in this video. So hopefully you enjoyed. I may do more stuff like this if it interests people, and have a great day.